I would like to seize the opportunity to say good morning to you all our listeners out there. And of course, a happy 21st Monday to you. I'm sure you must be home trying to relax to enjoy today. But we want to treat you to a special program this morning. And we have a program that we title The Science or Indicators of Honor-Based Violence. Honor-Based Violence. We're going to delve into this topic, and we hope you're going to learn something. And feel free to throw in some questions or remarks along the way. But permit me to just introduce the program by saying that in this segment, we'll be touching on the topic of honor-related violence. And this is another taboo issue that is still prevalent in our modern day society. Even though sometimes we try to push it under the carpet, but it's still ongoing in spite of a lot of activism and campaigns. This problem is still around. And when we speak of honor-based violence, we're dealing with an umbrella technology that covers different forms of intimidation, coercion, physical and psychological violence, all of which are committed from an honor-based motive. For instance, when the honor of a family of a person has been deemed as damaged or is at stake, then an action like we are about to discuss usually takes place in order to repair the damage. The aim of this segment is to highlight the various forms of this violence and how we may recognize it. It's important that not only professionals working in this field, but also ordinary people like you and I are able to recognize the signs of this problem. And so welcome, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Now, it gives me pleasure to want to introduce our guest today. Let me just be sure that they can hear me. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let me introduce our guest today. I'm so honored today to have once again Professor Dr. Janine Janssen. She is a lecturer in security in Dependency Relations, in that is called Veiligheid in Afhankelijk Relaties. And she also works as the head of research for the National Expertise Center for Honor-Related Violence for the Dutch police. He's also a professor by special appointment for legal anthropology at the Open University. I'm so honored one more time, Professor Janssen, that you took the time to be with us. We so appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's a great honor to attend your show. Thank you.
Thank you. We have also on the call, as you can see, a beautiful lady. She's called Auntie Ruthie, and she is from the community. She's a social worker, but we decided this show to add a community dimension to it. So she will be listening, and at some point, she has a comment or question, she might throw that in as well. So, okay, beautiful. So, ladies and gentlemen, well, it's time to kick off. And I'm going to kick off with a question to our guest today, and that is, I would like to know what usually is at stake in the family or for the family in question when it comes to honor-based violence. What really are they trying to protect or trying to make sure that it's intact?
That was a question for me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. The line isn't always stable, but well, for now, for almost 2 decades, I'm working in the field of honor-based violence.
Yes.
And over the years, we've seen a lot of trouble in large extended families when young people want to choose a partner, or when families are already established, when they want to leave a partner. And then the family mingles in, and if a divorce is not accepted, if the choice of the spouse is not accepted, Unfortunately, we see some threats of violence. And as you already mentioned, and it's terribly important, the violence can be physical, but the violence is also psychological.
Right.
And some people suffer enormously because they are so scared of what the family might do.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to, of course, delve deeper into this. I'm just curious, what are some of the common features or forms of what we know as uh, honor-based violence? I think it takes different form. We mentioned the physical and
Yeah.
psychological aspect of it, but maybe you can go a bit more in depth
Yes.
to tell us.
I think what is important to notice that it is a group conflict. Huh? An individual family member decides to take certain steps in life, and then the collective of the family says no. Huh? You can't go. You can't choose a particular direction in your life, and there we see the trouble. It is different from a conflict between two individuals. It is a conflict between an individual or a couple of individuals and their entire family group. That makes it different. In the Netherlands, we also see a lot of domestic violence, of course, and we make a distinction with domestic violence because while talking about domestic violence, we often see that then there is a conflict between a spouse and a former spouse, or between parents and children. But what makes this different is that the extended family has an important part to play in the family conflict.
Yes. 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 Okay. We still, well, I still want to like to well, the forms that this violence takes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm getting some correctly notes in the background. I'm not quite sure what's happening, but I hope it's not
Yeah, or
on the
the
side.
forms of violence. We
Yeah,
already made this distinction between
yes, yes,
physical and psychological violence.
yeah,
When we're talking about physical violence, we see some severe threats.
yeah.
People are threatened with death, for example,
Mhm.
beating ups, abductions, and in some cases, unfortunately, we also encounter forms of manslaughter or murder.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
a huge range of
Whole range.
forms of violence that we encounter, but
Yeah.
all these forms of violence are very severe.
Yes. 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 Auntie Ruthie, have you by any chance come across or experienced what we're talking about? Let's say a family or a group of people who are so protective of the honor on their family name, and so much so that they are prepared to go to any extent to protect it. So
Well,
they try to push out, let's say, anybody who wants to intrude into their family, for example, and say they'll make sure they just keep you out, and they can even target you to harm you or something. Have you heard of anything like that? Are you aware of something like this?
when we're talking about honor-based violence
Yeah.
or honor-based abuse or honor-based marriages, it's a marriage. Well, let's talk about like marriage, because marriage then comes the family, comes the community. So it starts from the marriage when they want the girl to be pure,
Yes.
because most of these things depend on religion, our religious background. When maybe the Bible will say the woman has to be pure, or somebody don't, or the man can take two women. There are a lot of rules in the marriage just to keep the marriage pure, because of the land they are going to share, because of properties that are involved.
Yes.
So when we come to the community or a big family, where maybe a Muslim or Christian or even our African traditional religions, or even the tradition itself. For instance, even in Ghana right now, we have politics going on, and it's like tribal politics. And even if the politicians are not doing well, the tribe still supports them, because it's my brother. I don't want
Mm.
him to put into shame. I
Yeah.
don't that it affects my whole tribe, that
Yeah.
we are not clever enough, we are not passionate.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
see?
Yeah. Okay.
So this is where when the religion comes, the tradition comes,
Yeah.
and now the social norms comes.
Mm-hmm.
That is when
Well,
they say it's abuse. But before, it's not abuse.
honestly, you've just mentioned
The-
something
the-
that I've been thought of. Professor Janssen, have you heard what she said? You know, the dimension she's bringing into. I never knew this place as even within the African context, but I think she's mentioned something very important.
Yes, of course.
Have you heard something like that? You know, from at least
Well, I'm intrigued with the comments Mrs. Boney makes also about religion. You state correctly that this isn't a pure Muslim thing or a Christian thing. We see people with different religious backgrounds, and according to a lot of religions, this forms of violence isn't allowed. But religion is terribly important because the religion all over the world gives us idea about what a good marriage is, what the place of sexuality is in daily life. And according to most religions, sexuality belongs to marriage. People form ideas about what is being pure based on religious thoughts. And I don't see honor issues as a pure religious problem. On the contrary, I think that religion can also help us to prevent this form of violence, because religion also tells us to abstain from violence.
Yeah.
But the puzzle Mrs. Boney described, about the social norm, that is really complex.
Yes.
And I really love how she is translating it to the African context, because therefore we're here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I interrupted you, but you just made that point. It was so poignant that I needed to bring in Professor Janssen. But you can go ahead if you want to finish up what you were saying.
So when we talk about this, and then we have the new, like for instance, even from the young age, the religion, let's say the Christian religion will say, train the children, beat them, let them do what you want. But nowadays, the society is saying, even the UN child something code says, don't beat the children at all.
Yeah.
You see, so then it comes like even these marriages and training the children can strengthen alliances like military alliance or political alliance. So they want to present their good face.
Mm-hmm.
So like an Indian woman who pays dowry to marry a man, and she goes into this family, and the men say no, and the men's family can say, we don't like this woman because she's not rich enough. We will know another beautiful woman who is richer than this one.
Mm-hmm.
So they start to treat the woman badly. And then the woman's family will say, no, we've done everything according to the tradition.
Yeah, correct.
Yes, so you will not treat our girl like this.
Yeah.
Either they take her back because they want to protect their family and protect themselves. So protecting can bring fights. Somebody can fight just to protect their land or their family. They can kill to protect their name or their property.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is where this honor-based violence comes from.
Yeah. So, Professor Janssen, I wanted you kind of maybe clarify more when I asked the first question about what is at stake. Ms. Bonny has mentioned about maybe property, for example.
Yeah.
Can you mention some of the other things that maybe are the reason why the family will make sure that whoever is coming in does not come to cause any damage or to dilute the family name or family inheritance or whatever What are some of the other things, assets or whatever it is that they seek to protect in all of this?
It is good to keep in mind, like Mrs. Boney already mentioned, that there can also be trouble about land, about material assets. But the most cases that the police have to deal with in the Netherlands have to do with sexuality outside marriage. For example, young women losing their virginity. And then the family says, well, this isn't a pure woman, this isn't a good woman. And the idea is that if one family member damages the good name, then the entire family is at stake. Yeah? So the family might behave violently in order to restore their good reputation. Otherwise, other family members might also be in danger. Other young women aren't able to marry because about an older sister, the community is talking in a bad manner.
Mhm.
Next to that, we see also a lot of cases when people want to get a divorce, or when children are born out of wedlock, or when people are having extramarital affairs.
Yes.
Then families might also consider that to be as damaging to the good name, to the reputation of their family.
Yes.
And to be frank, in the Dutch context, we encounter a lot of cases that have to do with some form of sexuality.
Yeah.
But it is good to keep in mind that discussions about heritage, land, stuff like that might also be a factor of influence.
Yes. Now, I'm sure you probably, well, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you probably haven't got into cases involving, let's say, Africans, in the context of honor-based violence.
Yes.
You haven't. So this is probably new to you, but I'm glad Miss Bonny mentioned that. And maybe, so I guess maybe perhaps the unit within your working, perhaps you're probably going to open your eyes to look at those possibilities, because I think they are there. What she's saying, from what she's saying, these things are actually happening. Only maybe the outreach to our I mean, Africans, for example, is not there for them to be able to report or to deal with this kind of issues. But from what Ms. Bonny is saying, clearly, these kind of issues play out.
Yes.
You know?
We do encounter cases from people with an African background, but they are not the most cases that we see in the Netherlands. And sometimes we also encounter cases regarding the circumcision of young females.
Yeah.
And in the Netherlands, that is also brought into the context of honor-based violence, because some families say that it's also damaging to the good name of the family if young women are not circumcised. They are not marriage material, so to speak.
Yes.
So, but that is also the reason why I love joining this show. It is a great way to discuss this topic, and also for me to learn more about the issues that your communities are concerning.
Yes. Thank you so much. We really are grateful that you always you're willing to come on the show to help us in the discussion. I want us to talk about the basic cultural framework of the communities that are affected by honor-based violence. I mean, the setup within which these things do happen. What are the beliefs? I mean, okay, you're talking about the sexual purity and all those things. And Ms. Bonny also spoke about wanting to make sure that people don't get into to grab the family inheritance or whatever. If they think somebody is a risk in that respect, and they want to keep the person out. But I want to give you to the room to deliberate a bit on the social framework within which this kind of things happens, so that the listener can have a better appreciation of, oh, this is why it happens and all that.
Well, I think one of the most important features of the communities where these conflicts take place is that people are relying for help, for social support, for security on their family members.
Yeah.
So the community is way more important than individual choices. And that is a difference, huge difference with, for example, what is important in a lot of Western communities, where people think, this is my life, I lead it on an individual manner, these are my choices to make. That is the biggest difference.
Yes.
That the community, the extended family is so important. People identify themselves as a member of that family.
Right. And so they just can't lose their family for any reason. So, yeah.
Well, some Westerners might say, well, if these people are troubling you so much, well, say goodbye, leave and start your own life.
Yeah.
And that is so difficult because
Yes.
there are trouble within the family, but there's also a lot of love and a sense of belonging.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is a terribly important thing. And it is kind of ridiculous to say to people, well, get rid of their family. That's not
Yeah.
very realistically. And there are problems within the family, but you must also try to find a solution within the family, because it's heartbreaking to ask for people to give up their family.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
This is possible indeed. Yeah. Now, Ms. Bonny, the anger you brought in about the political affiliations, the land, and what have you, can you go a bit more into that and tell us if they explains that kind of this framework within which this takes place?
You know that the whole thing you are talking about is honor, the respect,
yes,
the honor, the respect of the family or the individuals in the family. So, for instance, when we're talking about this female circumcision, in the traditional, like some North African traditions, it is a must, and the East African, you have to do it to keep you clean, to keep you clean, to keep you, then it comes like you don't go and get pregnant for another man from another family, and then quickly marry another man from another family, and then your children come to inherit their land and their properties and their thrones. You see? But when the Dutch police or the Dutch government or the European government is looking from the mountain at maybe Africa or the Muslim tradition, they say, that is violence. Leave them alone. Let us do what they want. But it doesn't go like that. Because like in the Dutch government gives us a lot of financial support. They give us clean house. They put laws in place. The police are doing their best. Everything is going on well. You see, but in this other society that the Dutch is doing all their best to include us and accept the diversity of the society, and then they're having problems. You say, what is wrong with these people? Why can't they leave them alone? But it doesn't work like that. I came to Netherlands when I was 30 years. So you cannot tell me quickly that, oh, Ruth, from tomorrow, you behave like this. I am trained and my mind is wired differently. Then the police and the social workers, which are the real Dutch, will say, is Ruth crazy? This is not right. But I think, no, I don't want to have sex, or I don't want to marry that man, or I don't want my girl to marry this man, because my tribe in Ghana doesn't love them. We don't respect them. They are from descendants of slaves. They don't have properties. So I have my own traditional reason.
And honor also to protect.
So if the Dutch government says, I want to include Ruth and the family from all their differences, then they are thinking, oh, the way Ruth is thinking is not right. And Ruth is also thinking, this is what is the right thing we do in Africa. It's the best. So that is where then they will say it's violence. It's not violence. We are talking about the respect for each other. That's, look, there are sometimes some people, family quarrel. And then when they quarrel, then so they say, we are going to make DNA for our children to see if this baby is really mine. And they go and do that DNA. The baby is not for the man. The man is broken. The man is distraught. You see. But in like, let's say in Africa, the man will be very angry. The families will be very angry because the man spent a lot of money on this baby. The name, even our surnames. The name, maybe Janssen, is the name, or that is like, please don't make my Janssen name dirty, or don't make my Bonny name, like, bring it down. We have properties, we are slave owners, we are big. And then You bring children to our family, and most of them are not even our blood DNA.
Wow.
So it's coming to steal from us. What is it? So the Dutch government, but in the Dutch government system, they look, well, the children are part of the society. The children are for the world.
Yeah.
So let them marry, let them dance the dance that they want to dance, marry who they want.
Yeah.
Don't touch them, don't beat them. But Africa will beat you, we will say, sit here, we'll lock you up till you. So the Dutch has to educate us. That is, they have to educate us. Oh, please, just like you have to pamper us to change our minds.
So, Dr. Janssen, you see the angle, the perception, the way,
Of course, I see the angle. And, in the Netherlands, according to our laws, we don't accept certain forms of violence. And I think it is terribly important to also understand where communities are coming from. That is why I also attend your show. I'm really interested to get your angle and to understand these issues. And I'm not about banning culture or stuff like that. But also, I'm also a police officer. You want to also defend the rights of children, their integrity. And you want to defend them, and to one way or the other, you want to be helpful in helping communities addressing these issues. I think it needs also a lot of talk within your communities in order to discuss the way you educate and you raise your youngsters.
Yeah.
And that is not something that the Dutch police is going to decide. As of now, people with an African background do have to educate their children in a certain manner. Of course not. It doesn't work that way. But we make a stance where violence is involved. And in our community, that's not acceptable. We will defend the rule of law. But we are also here to listen to communities. Right now, I'm also here to tell the people, when you are suffering from troubles in your family, don't feel ashamed. You're not the only one. Come forward and let us try to find a solution. That is so important.
Okay.
If I may come in here, you see, there was a time in the church here in Amsterdam. The church elders were really worried because the youth like 17, 20, a lot of them were going to juvenile detentions, to prisons.
Yeah.
Because, when you want to correct them, then they say, no, I'll call police or I'll call the social worker. You cannot control them. And then now, then they become a bigger problem because we are from different backgrounds, and we just try to clean and work hard to educate our children. And then at school, their teachers are telling them, in our system, this is how it goes. And then when it comes to the house, and the mom and the dad are saying something, so, you are from Africa, you don't know anything. This is, Europe, we have new style, And then they become stubborn, or even some of them, they take them from their parents and give them to foster parents. Right. And at the end, they break the family, and some of the youth, they go to prison. And then their mothers are crying in the church. They have to go and visit their sons in prison, and they are really brokenhearted. So it needs a lot of, that is why education and orientation for us to change our minds. And then we work together, the parents, the law enforcement come together. In a marriage where there are two voices, the papa is saying something and the mama is saying something, it doesn't help the children. So now, when we come from Africa and we are here with our Dutch family, the Dutch police and the system, they become part of our family.
Right.
So I will say the Dutch family, which is the police, the social workers, youth specialists and professors, you have to work with us, the parents rather, and then we can all put our children in line. Because these children, when they go to Africa, they love to go to Africa, they love African food, and then they come here, so they are a little bit confused. So if the Dutch say, no, don't do what your mother is saying. If they do something you don't like, call us,
Yeah.
And then they come home and say, no, if you do what the Dutch government is telling you, You will not finish your school. You will not get a good job. I'm cleaning the floor as a cleaner. You will not get a good job because you steal something in the shop. You cannot work in Skipple. They will not give you a good job. And then the boy or the girl is confused. So the only thing is, it's good we are doing this program, but the important thing is we want the Dutch police, the government, the professors, the social workers to work together with the parents and the church community to train this, and then we can eliminate the violence, because it's not violence, it's honor-based violence. We want to keep our integrity. So we become violent because the children or our girl or our son is not behaving well.
Okay.
So
I think you're addressing two important points. Huh? In general, we're not talking here about criminal families, not at all.
No.
I encounter a lot of families who are worried enormously about raising their children. And it doesn't matter from what culture you're from. Raising children, it is the most responsible chore in life, and it's the most difficult. And it doesn't matter where your roots are, where you come from. That is a huge responsibility, and that is a hell of a job. And that is complex, especially in the process of migration. What I really liked hearing is that I think we should collaborate. We should work together. In order to receive better understanding of each other's issues, and also help dealing with these educational issues.
Yes, absolutely. And what I'm getting from of this so far is that what we are looking at today as honor-based violence and crime and those things, whatever has an honor attached to it in the family, I think it will never go away. But people will try to protect that, the honor of their families. But I guess what we are trying to make sure doesn't happen is the violence which results from this, trying to protect the family name or the family legacy. The violence which comes out of these issues that are what we are trying to deal with. But as for the reason and the cause we have to protect our family name or legacy, that I doubt if it will ever go away. It will still be there, because everybody wants something good for their children or their family. So they want to keep the good within and keep the bad out.
Wise words.
Yes. So let's talk about. By the way, kudos to ladies. You ladies, you've done awesome. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Let's talk about, let's say, the effect. There's some of the common effect on victims when they have been exposed to honor-based violence. What would be some of the common effects on them? People who have become victims of honor-based violence, for one reason or the other. Can we talk about that? What is the impact on them?
Well, they are not only suffering from the consequences of violent behavior, but they also feel very isolated. Like I already said, there might be some trouble within the family.
Yes.
But I've seen across cultures that the solidarity between children and their parents, that is something very unique.
Yeah.
And victims are often suffering because they're also missing their family.
Yeah. Right.
And that is one of the most impressive effects of this form of violence. The loneliness.
So talking about the isolation. Isolation is also a part of punishment. Yeah. And then you get depressed.
Yeah.
Then you get lonely and you feel worthless.
Yes.
So it's also a violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now we come back to the whole thing is about honor base. You see, we are now living in a very liberal society when the Bible norms, our moral norms, our traditional norms, they say put it away and just be free. Dress the way you want. You can wear a very short skirt. You can show your boobs. You can make, everything. But some people will say, no, you have to cover your legs.
Yeah.
For instance, in the African family, when you are not married, you can show your legs.
Yes.
But when you are married, you don't show your legs. So the way you put your cloth, even tell somebody, oh, she's married.
Yes,
You see?
that's true.
Yeah. So if European society or European police or Dutch police is looking at us, let's say me now, I would say I will fight for honor-based violence or honor-based abuse, because I would say you do this, you sit here and you do what I want. My brothers will say you do what we want. We will not let you go out and spoil the name. So, but we don't look at it as violence. We look at it like we are protecting the boundary. We are putting boundaries in place for you to react morally correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So me as an old in my head, when I'm not educated too much, I will say, oh, no, it's not violence. It's just the law. You have to, for instance, I go to a shop and I want to steal a bit more lipstick.
Yeah.
It's not allowed.
Yes.
So the police take me and put me in jail and let me clean the street for a week. You see, so that was how, then I'll say, this is violent. They are treating me without respect. They are not treating me well. I didn't behave well.
Yes.
So this is where we or me, I would say, this honor-based violence, honor-based abuse, honor-based marriage, it is not a problem, but the way we have to handle it together, so that everybody doesn't steal in the shop, everybody doesn't make babies and then give it to, get pregnant and then give it to a richer boy, or they're on the street and the baby say, tell the mother, don't talk to me like that. The baby is telling the mother to shut up, which is not right. It's so complex. So I will not say it's moral-based abuse, honor, respect. So the whole community, the law enforcement, everything is very easy because everyone is doing the right thing. And for instance, in Africa, they say the children are trained by the village. When you are on the street, you don't throw stones into somebody's house in the village. When you do that, somebody on the street will just beat you up. What about if that stone hits somebody's eyes in the house?
Yeah.
You are just being naughty. So me, I can say, it's honor, it's respect, it's enforcing the laws. And if the person doesn't follow the law, we punish the person. That is how the whole thing is. But if the Dutch government find a lot of diversity, like a lot of cultures coming together, and it doesn't conform with their laws, then they have to educate us, the older ones.
A better way to
we are not happy that our
yeah.
children are going out of our lanes.
Yeah. So in terms of the effects on the victim, we spoke about isolation and depression. So these are more correctional. But do these actually succeed in getting the victims back in line the way the family wants? Dr. Janssen?
Well, I often see that happen. That I remember a case where a young girl fled to a shelter because her family wasn't accepting her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then she left the shelter because she said, I love my boyfriend, but I love my family way more. I can't continue living without my family. And then she went back.
Yeah. Wow.
So
go ahead.
This isolation punishment works. This depression, you don't come to our parties, you don't come to our wedding, we don't want to see you. You see, don't come and listen to our music. And then they isolate you, and then you feel lonely. It's also a type of punishment. And then you come back. So that is what Janine said, that it works to keep people in line.
Yeah. But then
it works. It's also heartbreaking. I also see people breaking down mentally, and they are damaged. They are traumatized. We're talking about very young people often, and for me, it's difficult to see. And on the one hand, it would be wonderful if people were able to make their own choices. I understand that they are going back, and I can only hope that they will find happiness and peace. But I don't know what happened afterwards to this young woman. So I wish her all the best, but I hoped it worked out well for her.
Well.
I just don't know what happened. So
Yeah,
I have mixed feelings about that.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. The family bond will definitely be stronger than any other thing. In most cases,
Blood is thicker than water, huh?
yeah, precisely as they say. So, some people will just endure all the abuse and the whatever just to be connected to the family. So really, now if let's say from a legal point of view, we want to make a big case out of it, who will be the loser? Is it the law enforcement or the family? Because the law enforcement is looking at the harm or the violence as the target, but the family will look at it as a correctional tool to bring the person back in line. So
Well,
where do we draw the line?
well, of course, when you try to murder people, completely unacceptable. All
Yeah.
forms of physical violence are unacceptable. And nowadays, in the Dutch society, we have an important discussion where we understand that violence isn't only physical violence. There are also emotional, mental,
psychological
violence that have a tremendous influence on victims. And that is also where it becomes a little bit difficult, because Mr. Bonny already mentioned that isolation, that works. Well, yes, to a certain extent, it works in the sense that people return back to their families, but it is also damaging. And law enforcement also nowadays is thinking, what should we do with these cases? Because in the Dutch society, we have now a more broader understanding of what violence is. And this is difficult for us to deal with, because we see that people are hurting, that people are suffering. And what should we do, not only as law enforcement, but as a society, in order to help people? And therefore, we also need contact with communities. This is something like we're doing now that should be discussed within communities. What does it take, and to what extent is all this suffering morally allowed?
Yes. But has the Dutch, let's say the law enforcement like yourself, going into a situation whereby you had to meet the family in question and to reason issues out and maybe to come to terms somewhat? But I think usually because there hasn't been that clear understanding as to why this honor-based violence is taking place. So the law takes its course in a different way. And without actually understanding
to the families, that is one of the most important aspects of the Dutch approach for the police in dealing with these cases.
Okay.
There's a lot of mediation going on, and then you should find common ground. What is acceptable for all parties in order to prevent the use of violence. So you must find common ground. And when we talk to people that say, I feel threatened, or there's something terribly going wrong within my family, then we always try to make what we call it kind of a social map of what is going on in the family. What are the different point of views? Who is the most influential? What is at stake? In order to help people, you should understand what is happening within a community. Talking to the people, listening to them, what are they afraid of? What are the debates going on within the community? Well, that is necessary. Otherwise, you can't be of any meaning as law enforcement for these people. You should understand the conflict and what is at stake.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't know from your, your expertise, and because that's your area of expertise. Given the way we're talking about it, do you think that these cases are getting? I mean, is it getting better or it's still the same? Because
20 years ago, I started working in this field, and a lot of people in the Netherlands said, well, Is this so important? Sounds very exotic, rather to say so. That what was often mentioned. And nowadays, we see this isn't a strange aberration that occurs very often. And nowadays, we have a lot of cases of people that are coming from countries all over the world that are battlefields. For example, right now we have a lot of cases from people with a Syrian background, and we're not only talking about honor, but we see also people that have suffered from war, and the way they traveled to the Netherlands was also very troublesome. Think of human trafficking and stuff like that, all the hardship that refugees encounter while they are traveling to Europe. And what worries me a lot is that I see a lot of suffering in these communities because they have suffered from being in war zones in very violent areas. So you see a lot also of mental issues, and these issues are also related to violence. That is worrying me a lot. And another issue that concerns me heavily is the use of social media.
Yes.
Because when you look at migrant communities, let's say something is happening in the Netherlands that has to do with the honor of the family.
Yeah.
Well, when you have a smartphone, it is very easy to spread the rumors to the country that you're originally from, to all over the world. And that gives an international dimension to a lot of conflicts. Those are not local conflicts anymore. You're not, let's say, talking about a daughter that behaved in a bad manner in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
With a few clicks on your smartphone, you can spread the rumors all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
These conflicts even more dangerous.
Right.
And that is troubling me enormously, because you can't say get rid of your smartphones.
No.
Smartphones have also brought us, and modern communications technology has brought us good stuff. But there are also some risks involved that influences the way we see cases, and I think to a certain extent it has to help increase cases of honor-based violence.
Yes. I can't believe that we've used up our time almost already, and without realizing it, we didn't even give listeners the chance to call. I'm so sorry about that. But just a quick one before we head towards the exit. What forms of honor-based violence and or honor killings do happen here in Europe, in the West specifically? Are they as extreme as we know about or hear about? I mean, the ones that we hear of here, like the one you mentioned, the girl who wanted to be with the girlfriend, the boyfriend, but the family didn't want it and all that. Is that the only form that we see relational kind of honor-based violence?
The most cases that the police encounters have to do with some aspect of sexuality. It's usually to do with sex outside marriage, not accepting partners, extramarital affairs, children born out of wedlock, wanting to get a divorce. That is, that most cases that we see have to do with those aspects, but it doesn't mean that there might not be other issues at stake. Like Mrs. Bonny already mentioned about owning land, stuff like that. That's also possible.
Okay. All right. I'm so sorry we have to just end it here. And I'm so indebted to you, ladies. Dr. Janssen, thank you so much for coming on the show. And we can help to reach out to you next time we need you. So please be open.
Okay, I'd love to come back. And thank you very much for the good discussion. I also enjoyed meeting Mrs. Bonny. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Definitely,
I would want you to have her in mind in case you have a discussion somewhere you think you need her input. I think I would love to send her over to you.
Love to talk further. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to meet you. It's an honor.
Yeah.
We'll continue to. What is important is we need education, looking at the broad issues, so that everybody will have self-esteem and keep the law, then we have peace of mind and a thriving society.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to wish you a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of your day. And listeners, well, time is up. I'm sure you've enjoyed every bit of it. Sorry we couldn't give you the chance to talk or to ask any questions, but we'll see what happens next. Enjoy the day and God bless you all.